Thank you for joining us today for today's webinar, The Art of Espionage, Collections in the Social Media Age. My name is Lori Drake. I am the Building Blocks Community Manager here at Handle. If you're not familiar with Handle, we are a purpose-driven platform for building material suppliers. We have lien rights management, waiver compliance, do great job research, as well as a payment portal. Today, I would like to introduce our speaker. For those that don't know Shane, he is the Senior Enterprise Account Exec here at Handle. He received his bachelor's in finance from the University of Utah. He received a CCE from the National Association of Credit Management's graduate program at Dartmouth College. He has over 20 years of experience within the construction and equipment industry. So there's no one better to keep us up to date on current trends and tips to help you start your 2025. Welcome, Shane. Thank you for joining us, and I'll let you take it from here.
Sounds good. Thanks for that introduction, Lori. I used to be a credit manager for most of those years, and it's not easy. But we have some new tools, and I personally didn't use these tools as well as I should have when I was a collections manager, and some of the stuff has come around a little more recently. So I just wanted to share with you some of my findings when it comes to social media and how to collect, and some of the tools that are out there that maybe might help you folks in your endeavors to reach out to your customers a little more often and just take advantage of some of this stuff. So first of all, here's kind of our landscape for the next hour. We'll talk a little bit about a review, then what we're dealing with today from an apps and tool standpoint, and then how to go about it, and then should we go about it, kind of thing. So first of all, I enjoy telling stories, but my stories aren't always stories with happy endings. So this one isn't. Just a spoiler alert. I was working as a credit manager in Las Vegas, and along came our power generation salesman, and he said, "Hey, I need you to change an invoice out of one of our subcontractors' names that we've been doing business with for 40 years to a new customer's name, a DBE. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a disadvantaged business owner." And I said, "Okay, get me his app." And lo and behold, we finally got the app, and in Spanish, I called it a pelagato, which means he had nothing and really wasn't worth anything, especially an $800,000, as you see here on the page, the newly built building for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. So this backup generator would jump in if the power went out for the elevators and the escalators and all that different stuff. So we were in a kind of a quandary, but lo and behold, the sales manager came back in and says, "Well, Shane, we really don't have a choice because we already said we'd do it and we signed that we would do it, and we just haven't done it, and we have to do it now." And so, as you all know, you've probably been roped into those situations where they had already done everything, and so now it's just a matter of cleaning this up. So fortunately, we had sent out a preliminary notice on the project, and we went to go collect as things happened, and 30 days later, and we couldn't find him. So I reached out to the that subcontractor, and they tracked him down. And then about 60 days later, we ended up in the subcontractor's office where we exchanged checks and waivers and releases. Well, they gave him a check for $1 million, and he gave me a check for my 800, and there was a couple other vendors in that bigger check. And then I went and just deposited it, and no big deal. And then a few days later, behold, the check bounced. And I'll make this long, horrible, painful story short. He had been doing business with the subcontractor for a couple of years, but he was one of those sleepers. He was just waiting for the right size of check, and he decided that he grabbed the funds, put them in a different account, and took himself to Hawaii, divorced his wife, and paid off a whole bunch of his friends and neighbors as gifts because he said he fell into a pot of money. And so I showed up at his house to try and figure out some of this stuff, and he wrote me another check, and that one bounced, obviously, when I went directly to the bank. So it's a big mess. The story, the reason I share this is the more information that you have, how I found him, some of the stuff that he was doing was on social media. I was able to find out that, some of that stuff that he'd been doing, he'd been gifting it to other people. Yeah, so it was a big mess, but learned a lot of good lessons. But seriously, he was what we call the credit criminal. Anybody want to ask me any questions to about my painful experience? Rub it in, salt in the wound.
Remember, you can take yourself off mute.
So don't do what Shane did. Just FYI. Okay, so a little pop quiz here. Take yourselves off mute. Can you guys help me out with the 5 C's of credit? Anybody want to jump in and give me a few of them? This is the participation part.
Character.
Okay, character's one of them. Good. Anything else?
Capacity,
Capacity, great.
capital,
Capital, okay. Couple others.
collateral,
Collateral, conditions.
Asset conditions.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so pass. You guys as a team, you pass. So I've got all of those here.
Hey, Shane, really quick, you do have a question from your first story. They are asking if you recovered anything.
Yes, we did. Not everything, but we recovered about a third of it. You know, because obviously the general had already paid, the subcontractor had already paid, and we hadn't been paid, so they didn't want to pay twice. So it took us a couple of years to figure all that out, and we really messed up a great relationship with that subcontractor too. So it was kind of a hard pill to swallow, but yeah, we did get about a third of it back, but it did cost us a pretty penny to get there with the legal fees.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
not a great ending. Not a great ending. Good question, though. Okay, so from the standpoint of what these mean, if you think about it, the 5 C's of credit still, I feel like, are still valid even today in today's market, where this is how we go about assessing credit. And I've even seen it at banks where they'll list all the 5 C's and they'll do a paragraph on each one of them as they evaluate a new loan kind of thing. So a couple ideas on how to remember these. When I used to teach the credit principles class, you kind of pretend you're like a monkey or a chimpanzee. So you do cha. So, while you're flipping your arms like a monkey kind of thing. So cha. If you need that in the future, who knows? You never know when that will come up, right, Tracy Turner?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, so let's talk about the social media landscape today. Now, I think this is something that most of you and certainly my teenagers could give this part of the presentation much better than I could. But here is, and this isn't just limited to social media, but this is just this is a graphic that I really like that just lists a whole bunch of technology and tools that we can use or we do use on a regular basis. The stuff in the middle are all the biggest ones, the ones that are everybody should probably know what all they are. I've got all the Microsoft products in there and the Twitters and the Snapchats and the Slacks and the LinkedIns and all that stuff. But out here, they're all kind of grouped into a certain type of technology. And the bigger the words are, the more users and the more people are utilizing those. So you can see Wikipedia is fairly big. You've got Gmail and Outlook and Yahoo and Mail, Google Messages, all that kind of stuff. You've got a bunch of review stuff over here. Evernote, I use Evernote for taking notes. OneNote's big. Obviously, Microsoft 365, big deal. Tinder, I don't know how many of you guys are on Tinder, but apparently that's a big deal. And as you can see, so there's a lot of stuff out there that we can jump in on to help us, A, on a personal and consumer level, but B, we really could use more of this on a business side of things too. Have any of you guys used any of these weird ones here, like Deezer? No Deezer users?
I haven't even heard of most of these. That's because I must live in a box.
I
Well,
haven't heard of them either.
yeah.
There is one that says Sandbox. So
Yeah, there you go. Well, apparently you don't live in that box, Tracy.
Right?
Anyway, there are infinite numbers of tools out here. So I wanted to, jump in on a few of them. Here's the biggest, the biggest ones in the house here. Facebook, I mean, that's almost 3 billion kind of users. That's huge. You got YouTube. WhatsApp is also pretty big. Instagram, TikTok, WeChat is more Chinese. So a lot of these are Chinese. And then you get down here, Twitter and Pinterest, that kind of stuff. So still a lot. I mean, if you think about it, there's 300 million people in the United States, give or take. And Pinterest is the smallest of all these, and it's still got more users in it than we have people in America or the United States, rather. So kind of a big deal. kind of a big deal. Okay. The first one I wanted to discuss, and I wanted to spend some significant time on this, is LinkedIn, because I didn't really understand what LinkedIn was as a credit manager, and I've learned that more and more about it and how useful it can be. Think of this. When you guys get a new hire with a bunch of resumes, I think most of us are, Googling them. That's not something that's odd, but looking them up on LinkedIn, you can immediately see their online resume and who they're linked to just give yourself a sense of who this person may or may not be. The other thing that I have found is really interesting is when you get a new credit application, the business owners don't send over their resume. But if you jump in on LinkedIn and look them up, you're going to essentially see their online resume and who they are connected to and any reviews that they might have. So I find this a really powerful tool, not just for collections and finding out who they're linked to so you know who to reach out to if you can't find these people, but more of, hey, this is my resume. This can be a credit analysis tool as well. Have any of you guys used LinkedIn in that respect?
I've used it in every format that you're talking about, and it's kind of like a Facebook for business. You can find a lot of interesting information.
Yeah, I certainly agree. How many of you are using LinkedIn yourselves for your own stuff? Like, do you have your resume on there, your work history and all that kind of stuff? Does anybody, let me ask a different question. Does anybody not? And tell me why. Confessions, everybody's on there?
I'm on there.
Okay.
I'm on there.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be looking you up afterwards. Okay. So that's how I see LinkedIn as being crazy useful is, again, when we're doing credit assessments or someone comes in and they've been a customer for a long time, but all of a sudden now they have this big project and you need to reevaluate them. This is one of those tools that, it doesn't cost anything for you to jump in and take a little deeper dive into who you're dealing with so you can increase that limit with a little more confidence or less confidence sometimes. All right. Has anybody else used LinkedIn for something that I haven't really covered?
I use it just to sometimes spot check certain customers that I can't find. If I'm looking for data through databases, if there's someone I can't find anything on, I use LinkedIn for that. But I've never thought about using it on everybody, which is not a bad idea.
Thanks, Tracy. I appreciate you calling some of my ideas a good idea. Appreciate that.
Hey, you got good ideas.
I
I like seeing who's connected with who.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Kelsey. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it helpful for that, for like an extension of that, to get introductions. Sometimes if you don't know somebody that you do want to talk to, it's a great way to facilitate an introduction through a connection.
Okay. Yeah. Love that. Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate that. Again, it's just a free version of really a full-blown credit application that you wouldn't normally see. I mean, I know we love our credit applications, but when it comes to business, most of the time it's not something you can't find out already. But this is you're double clicking on this one owner or even the company itself just to see more of what's going on there. So you get a better, more well-rounded picture.
Yeah, most people don't realize it's out there yet, so they aren't hiding anything.
Yeah, right. So there's a lot of other ones out there too, right? So we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube even. Use these at your discretion, but the reason I still like all of these, again, from a business standpoint, I really like LinkedIn, but the rest of these, as I said before, kind of round out that profile because people are posting a lot of stuff on here and you're going to find a lot of information. So some of it's going to be noise, but other parts it's going to help you understand a little bit more of who the business is, because businesses generally have a profile, and some of the employees and what's going on and what they're sharing. So again, a super great way to connect with a myriad of different companies and people to see what's really going on to help you and make those decisions. Has anybody used any of these to help out with some of your credit research or collections or finding customers or profiling?
We use Facebook.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. What does that help you do, Tracy?
I'm sorry.
What does that help you do? When you use Facebook, what are you looking for?
We're trying to verify sometimes that our people are legit, like they're real people. They're not, made up people that are just put on a credit application. We've had a couple of instances of scam apps. So we've really started trying to zoom in and hone in some other places to just verify the people we're dealing with are real.
Okay, great. Love that. Love that. I interrupted somebody else. Whoa.
Oh, this is Carla. Isn't there something called search too, where you can get like their addresses, their name, relatives, and generally what area they live in?
Yeah, Carla, there is indeed. And thank you for pointing out one of my future slides here, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can't believe you do that to me, setting me up. But yeah, there are some additional apps, and some of them are paid apps where it's basically almost like a background check, tells you kind of where they live, phone numbers, known addresses, that kind of thing. And you can get those off of personal credit checks too if you have that authorization to check those. But yeah, certainly there's some free versions and just Googling people, which is kind of where I was going to head here. But yeah, thanks, Carla, for doing that. So yeah, how do we use this, all of this information, right? So giving us some character, likes, dislikes, lifestyle, looking to see if they're in Hawaii when they owe you money, that's kind of painful. And who they're connected with. Are they connected to a string of other customers of yours that have struggled with payments and you've had to go after, or and to Carla, to your point, are they in the right location where you had hoped they said they would, or in Tracy's instance, are they real? Are they really in Nebraska versus India, China, wherever it might be? So that kind of thing.
Okay, Shane, you made me think of a story. Oh, and I see my name
Okay,
on the next slide.
Let's hear your story, Lori, because I kind of maybe I have a.
It's not the same one.
Okay, let's hear it.
So looking at the social or the Googles and all that to find someone. So I couldn't find this guy to serve him forever. Well, I kept looking occasionally here and there. Well, then I found their wedding registry and found out when they were getting married and where they were getting married. And I would not like to say that we did serve him at his wedding, but hey, if he would have paid his bill, I wouldn't have did that.
That's a story.
Love that story, Lori.
That is a story.
That's a good one. Well, she also shared with me another story. So this was something that, I was asking some of my folks that I knew about to give me some background. And what do you know, Lori said, hey, this customer was saying they never received the materials, and voila, Facebook said differently. So again, this isn't the real customer, but Lori, tell us the story, I guess, since you're on with us.
Well, so they said they never received the material, and yet on Facebook, on their business Facebook page, they had posted a picture of our truck delivering the material and saying, hey, we just got our material. So it was nice proof of delivery, that's for sure.
I also had another good friend of mine as a credit manager, and same kind of deal. And here's what they posted. Now again, not the same person, not the same truck, but it was something very similar to this where they said, hey, I don't have any money, can't pay you today. And then lo and behold, looks up on Facebook and he's posting where he bought himself a brand new truck. So it helps with rounding out a better, bigger picture and understanding of what might be going on behind the scenes kind of thing. So,
well, and it's that 5C character one.
Mm-hmm.
Do any of these findings ever get called out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do.
Well,
Okay.
I don't know many credit managers that don't use these things to their advantage.
Right.
It's not like we're in law school and presenting in front of a judge and jury and you have to do it. Hey, I found this, and but I can't share this post that I found because it was obtained inadmissibly. So we don't struggle with that in our.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You can do the judge thing. I mean, I used to do a lot of small claims for, obviously the people under 10, 15,000, and I would use this stuff. I mean, if I had proof of something, I would present it.
Well, the cool thing about it is this guy wouldn't have got this truck if there was a lien out there on him, or a judgment of some sort, or a small claims judgment. He would have had to pay. The finance company wouldn't have given him finance this truck.
Or at least not a good interest rate.
Well, I guess there's always somebody out there that might do it. Yeah, but it would have made it a little more painful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's jump to something else that's a little bit sketchy and scary for everybody. How many of you use like a text message to help you with your collections? Anybody doing that today?
I do.
Tracy, you do?
Yep, I just use plain text message on my phone. So
Have any of you guys decided that I'm not going to do that because I have my personal phone versus a company phone, and I don't want to be reaching out to customers on my personal phone? Does anybody struggle with that notion?
I never use my personal phone, but I would use a company phone to do that.
Okay. Is that you, Carla?
Yeah.
So
we have another one that said that they use their phone, but only the work phone. They're anonymous, so I can't tell you who they are.
Okay. We love anonymous.
Hi, Lori.
Hi.
The
We only see
anonymous
the
it's
AAE 1301.
it's Bindu, and I'm trying to fix my name and I can't do it. So it's Bindu with Ferguson.
Oh,
Well, we're
okay.
glad to have you.
Thank you.
So little thought. So as a former credit manager, we kind of were struggling with this a little bit. I had a company phone, so I could do it, but my team didn't. And so we jumped on and got Google text messages, and it was free service. They assigned each of my team members a phone number, and they could text Google Text from their computers as if they had their own phone. And it was I feel like at one point it was free, but then at another time it was, it's something like a paid service, but it was not like giving your people a cell phone. So there are ways to do that, and it's cool because it comes right in on your computer. So when you're texting out and texting back in, and it stays there. So for those of you that struggle with that church versus state or personal versus company, try that and see if that works. Because to Tracy's point, Tracy, how effective is it texting your customers to help collect?
I'm able to actually collect more through the texting because these guys, some of these owners are just busy. And when you text them, they like immediately text their office and we are able to obtain payment.
Yeah.
And you have it in writing.
Yes.
Mhm.
The other thing is I got a voicemail the other day that I had my new license plates came in and the dealership said, "Hey, your license plates are here," and they just left me a voicemail. But I don't have their number in my phone, so I just figured it was a scam or spammer, and I kept calling the dealership where my license plates are like, "Oh no, we left you a message a month ago." I'm like, oh, so I am not that great at checking my voicemails anymore because anybody who knows me going to text me. I don't know if you guys have found that same thing, but texting seemed to work a lot better for myself and most of my customers. Now, having said that, I'm not just talking about texting here. I'm talking about IMs, like instant messaging things that necessarily aren't texting, but it's the same kind of thing, but like Facebook Messenger or some of those types of deals. How many of you have used those, right? This is a little bit of a leap here from where we've been.
What about LinkedIn messages?
Yes.
Yeah, I've used
Same
that
things.
before.
LinkedIn messages. Perfect.
If you had Facebook and you sent an instant message from Facebook, what do you use as the main account? You don't want to use your personal account. How do you?
Yes. So you can use your personal account. It's okay, but at the same time, I understand that might be a little bit of a stretch. But your company generally has a Facebook account.
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Got it. Thank you.
You'd have to be the manager of that business account, but Facebook is touchy because I think even if you do it that way, they can find out personally who you are. I know I've never sent one just because I didn't want them to see that. Whereas LinkedIn, it's a little more professional, I guess less scary in my opinion.
Right. However, I mean, you could set up a Facebook for just the credit department if maybe you're not the administrator kind of thing. Say, hey, this is the credit department. It's not something that you guys post anything on, so it's not like anybody's going to do a lot of research or something like that. But Lori, to your point, I think in any case, if somebody really wants to find out who you are, just like us now, we're talking about finding out who our customers are. I mean, certainly can go both ways, regardless of what platform we're using, business or personal kind of thing. So that's part of the online. We're taking advantage of it from our side, but you're right, it can go both ways.
I like the Facebook account for credit though. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I do too. I think that would really work.
It does. Yeah. So again, if you don't have their phone number or they're not responding on their text messages, you start sending them a instant message or Facebook message. I think that's the same, the Messenger, and Instagram's got their own, but there's some other ones out there too that it's just another way to try and reach out and get a hold of these people.
Well, and Carrie posted that you can use Messenger separate from Facebook itself, so you can actually message people without being friends or being able to see your profile.
Yeah, yep, you can. Now they don't have to respond to you, but all I know is if I've got a creditor now you need to be really careful, right? Because we're getting into some consumer type stuff here, but you say, hey, if I've got a creditor that's reaching out to me on instant messenger or messenger, that makes me a little nervous. Right. I don't really want them blabbing to everybody, which they can't. But at the same time, I'd probably try and address that. So, yeah, FYI, you've got text messaging. Use that. but you've also got these newer versions of text messaging that you don't necessarily have to have their phone number for. So could be super helpful. Anybody, how do you feel about that, Carla?
Probably use the company phone before Facebook Messenger or
Yeah.
because I think it'll get more, I think it'll get paid to attention. I mean, it comes immediately and they can respond to it immediately. And I think that Tracy is spot on with her, using that. I think that's why she's getting, good results because she's just using something that's getting there quicker.
Yep, love it. Love it. Okay, so think about this if the other methods aren't working. So something else to consider. Now, let's talk a little bit about is this okay or not. So I did some research, and again, I'm not an attorney, and I'm not going to represent that this is all good or bad one way or another. But here's an article I found back in 2021, and this guy writes, "Hey, you can text, email, and message on social media when you're looking for payment." But it says, hey, this is a blog post, and this person, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's former president, Kathleen Kraniger, right? She wrote that said, hey, you can do this, but you still have to comply with the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And I know that part of our seminar we did in LA, was it a couple of weeks ago or last week, Lori? And we talked about some new California laws where some of the business debt is now going to be considered as consumer. You have to follow consumer laws.
The Rosenthal Act.
Yeah. So I think that was under, was it 50,000 or 500,000? 500,000, I think.
500,000, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
just California.
Yeah. But as you can see here, so this is her saying, hey, in 2020, this act prohibits all of this harassment. So you can't go overboard here, but you can still utilize it. And it talks about text messages, social media, and other contemporary methods with consumers. So the rules apply to all of those, which means you can use those in lawful ways. But that's what I interpret it as. Feel free to interpret it yourself. So if you're thinking, I'm not sure if this is okay, Shane, I'll let you guys do the research and reach out if your own legal counsel if you'd like. But this is what I found. Questions? Nobody can spout case law right off the tip of their tongue. Okay. Whew.
I was just on mute, Shane. Sorry.
Oh, thanks, Gary. Okay, something that I really is big on. One of my apps that I used, my websites that I favorited is Google Maps. I use this all the time to help give me in a sense of who my customer is. Because if I know where they're at, it helps me just with some spatial awareness to know. I mean, if they're a regional customer in the middle of Indiana, why do we all of a sudden have a customer from Fresno, California kind of thing? So just a lot of that kind of stuff just really helps. So story time. Again, another story that doesn't end well. My parts department got burned because I got after them for selling a bunch of parts out of our sales territory. And so they said, okay, we won't do that anymore. Great. Well, these fraudsters got wise and they reached out to our parts department and said, hey, here's our account, here's where we're domiciled, which happens to be a storage unit facility. And here's our address, blah, blah, blah. Well, my parts department didn't bother looking to see where that address was and asking them, why are you ordering so many parts for things that you don't have any, I've never sold to you in the past, but okay, they have a local address, great. So what was happening is we were shipping it to this storage unit facility, and the storage unit facilitator person that was in there would come out and they would give them, the fraudsters would give them a new label, they'd slap this new label on, and then they'd be shipped back east, then overseas, and of course they were using stolen credit card numbers. So 30, 60, 90 days later we get all these chargebacks. So as you can see, Google Maps not only tells you, hey, there's something that's strange here, may not be the only red flag, but it is one red flag that's enough to say, let's double click on this and see what's really going on here, if that makes any sense. So again, Google Maps, understand who you're dealing with, but more so where you're dealing with. And you can see, you've got Google Maps, you can see exactly where stuff is. This isn't necessarily a plug for Handle, but this is one of our pages that says, hey, there are ways to find this out without subscribing to our services, but because most of the stuff is public, but you can get to a county assessor's page or obviously use our tool, which overlays county assessor property ownership information with Google Maps. And so you can click on any place in the country and you can find out exactly who owns that property. So also extremely helpful there. And here's kind of how that, might work. So if you click on this and it just kind of shows you how that works. You just click on it, automatically tells you the parcel number and the owner and what the owner's actual address is. So just helpful things to round out your credit decisions because it's part of the bigger picture. Questions on any of that?
No, but I do recall when you presented this at one of our luncheons, somebody did mention that they had used that before and found out that it was a post office. So it's a good way to realize that it's actually a real address or not.
Yeah, a PO box. Yeah, that's not super helpful.
Mm.
Yeah. So again, it just really helps arm you with good information to help you make, good decisions. And when your salespeople come in and say, "Hey, why aren't we doing this?" And you're saying, "Well, here's what I know. Here, show them this," and then say, "Hey, you tell me, what do you think?" kind of thing. So, Carla, I think you mentioned this earlier, is just people search, and Google is great at helping us do some people search. I know there's an actual people search subscription service, but I usually like to try, Google first. So you see what's out there, right? So if I Google Shane Norman, this is what I find. Apparently, my namesake is struggling a little bit.
Yeah, mine's better than that. Mine's a heavy set kind of a actress in not so good movies, full of pictures, and I'm like, yeah, not so good.
Oh
That's
boy.
awesome.
Okay. Yes, Carla, you are infamously famous. There you go.
Yeah, not me.
So yeah, I was like, well, I thought maybe it would pull up something for me, right? So this is the first page. So I go to the second page, and yeah, I'm still still more people struggling with my name here. But I do finally, on the third page at the very bottom, I finally make Google here. So, and then I'm just a little flexing fun moment, bragging. I got a award, and this is what it said years ago back in my skinny days. So yeah, kind of fun. But yeah, you have to kind of dig deep sometimes, but you'd be amazed at what you find. The other thing, Carla, and this is to your point, is if you've got a phone number, you can look up a phone number and do like a reverse address search. So it'll also, if you type in my name, it'll potentially give you my cell phone or something like that. We don't have the white pages or the yellow pages. I mean, I guess we do, but it's a little more difficult to come by, that they're just not laying around the house in these big, huge books. But yeah, it's all online. Feel free to try.
Verified. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It's been verified. Is that a free website?
This one is, but it doesn't give you much until you
Pay for something.
Yeah. So, but I got this in a free version. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's when you click on those links, like view the neighborhood, that's when they start charging you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Right.
Thank you.
Here's the other one. So I typed in my phone number and it says Shane, and there's a couple of us out there, but it narrows it down quite a bit. The other thing that I did not realize you could do is in Google, when you do the Google search, sorry, I'm starting to sound like my age here. You can set up an alert. So you did that and you searched something or some business or some person, but it didn't really come up with much. But hey, I think that there's some lawsuit out there or something going on. So what you can do is you can set up an alert that says, "Hey, based on this search, will you tell me if something hits the pavement?" And it'll do that. So that way you don't have to search it once a week and remember that for the next year, kind of thing. So I thought that was helpful. Has anybody ever tried this?
I'd heard of it, but I'd never known that I could actually do it. I've seen it like in a movie or something.
Yeah, it's always helpful to watch a lot of movies. Crime.
So have you done this?
No, I haven't. This is something I found out later that you could do.
Has anybody done this?
It's a little bit like your Dun and Bradstreet or your Experian, where you load your customers in there, and then it'll notify you when stuff comes out on your customers. But if you don't have Dun and Bradstreet or some of the rest of those credit subscription stuff, this is a good alternative to that. So
Yeah, I use it. I mean, but I'm in a completely different industry, in my field, but I definitely find it very helpful, especially for acquisitions. You can certainly find out about that. And I know that I've heard of customers being affected by ownership changes kind of in flight, with these projects. So it'd be nice to know if somebody had acquired that property while you were working on a project.
Nice. Carrie, I love that. Yeah, those acquisitions or buyouts and all that. Yeah, I could see where that would be super helpful. There goes my little dog. Okay, so this is the part where you guys get to tell me what else are you guys using that I haven't used yet? Anything? Have I covered all the fun little things that you guys sometimes use? I've got a few extra ones here that I've heard from some of the other times I've presented this, if you guys are okay with me sharing those.
For it.
Okay, here's a few of those. Here's a few of those. Glassdoor. Glassdoor is something that I found it helps you with wages and salaries and that kind of stuff. And it also helps you understand who might the supervisors be at each of these companies. So it's kind of a little eerie thinking about this, but you can jump in and see how much people make, I guess. So it's
You know, I think Indeed does that too.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Carla. Great. That's good. I'll
Yeah,
have to add
but
that
it's
to this
not,
list.
yeah, it's just not nearly as good as Glassdoor.
Okay, Carla, have you used Glassdoor?
Yeah, I was recently looking for a position, been out of work for a while,
Okay.
and I would go in there and look to see what kind of salary they were offering and what they were really making. So it was very helpful.
Okay.
You
Love
can
Yeah.
that.
see if they're like paying industry standard and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Sometimes they'd ask you to go further in, you would have to rate a previous employer, but I didn't really like to do that. So I would just stop and, go back in another time.
Sure.
If
Super
it
helpful.
asks you to rate it, does it make you say who you are? So like everybody would see that you did that?
No, I think you would put your position and if you were still there or a former employee.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I mean,
It is fine.
Again, we're just rounding out this credit analysis or hey, we need a $500,000, $50,000 limit. These are the kind of things you kind of want to know if you can. Remember the days when we used to try and check trade references and bank references and they never got back to you?
Yeah.
This is kind of a way to do that. By the way, I'll throw this out there too. There are some services that had I'd known, I probably would have jumped in on these. There's Bank V as in Victor, OD.com. They will check bank references for you. Now there's obviously a cost to it, and I think there's one or two others that do it too, but I've not used them myself, but I've seen them and knowing exactly how much is in their, well, I don't think it does exactly how much is in their bank account, but it's like a high six figure, low six figure, low. The ones you want to avoid is the low one figure kind of thing. But yeah, that is actually available now again through some of those services. So that was the bank references one. The other one that I like is LinkedIn, and there's some other ones is you can figure out who their boss is. You're not getting anywhere with your accounts payable person. And I escalate this? And they're like, no, or they just ignore you, right? You can figure that out on LinkedIn oftentimes. So I found that really helpful. You can also go to tax assessments to see if there's any liens on their property or if they're having any issues. Secretary of State. Google reviews. I love that. You know how we review the place that we ate, right? Take a picture. We love the salmon, or we hated the chicken fried steak, whatever it was. You can look on Google reviews and see different customers. And I haven't ever, and I'm not saying this is a good idea, but you can leave a review for a customer. So I don't know how regulated that is, but you can leave a review if you wanted to.
You talking about from the credit side?
Again, I'm not saying that's a good idea or not. I'm just saying it's out there. And you know what happens if I leave a review that isn't great? All of a sudden I get a little email or a text or some communication saying, hey, what can we do to make this good? So somebody calls me back, I love the part where you jump into the customer's website and it says, hey, connect with us or chat with us or reach out to us with any questions. And your people are not getting back to you. So you'll say, hey, I'm taking on a balance that is owed, on a debt that's owed. Can you have someone reach out to me?
And using the chatbot? The chatbot?
Yeah.
Oh, you are brave.
Well, again, these are people like you guys that have been on some of these webinars and seminars.
Hey, I've done it.
Have you?
Yeah, I mean, you don't say anything mean. You just say, hey, I'm trying to reach
No,
your accounts
no,
payable
no,
person. Can you have them give me a call in regards to, depending what it was. I don't know if I've put in regards to, but just say, hey, I'm trying to reach so-and-so, can you give me their information or have them contact me?
Yep. Or leave like a contact request for like a general info contact request. All that's
Yeah.
great in there.
Do you find it works? Do you find it works then pretty good? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of crazy. And then there's this also this I've used this so not Zoom like the like what we're doing today through Zoom, but there's also another one that's like a database, a Zoom info, and you can pull up a company's website, and then this little deal pops in and it says, would you like to know who works here? And so it automatically pulls in a bunch of people who work there and all their contact numbers and their titles. So I don't know how it gets all that information. I'm assuming that it scours the internet and probably LinkedIn, but it's really helpful. So if you guys wanted to, look into that, and again, there's a subscription cost involved with that too. But there's ways to find people and get information. I mean, I feel like to, kind of wrap things up. I've been doing this a long time, and these credit apps are, what used to just help us start off opening an account, in the right way. But we have so much more out there than we used to help subsidize this. I mean, the apps are really good at telling us where to send the bill, right? That's about it. And then everything else is all the rest of the stuff. And this is part of the rest of the stuff that, could really fill out a lot of gaps on those 5 C's. So thanks for your participation, everybody. And I hope there's some things that you guys have learned and maybe some takeaways here and don't quote me that I said any of this when you reach out to your customers. Don't blame me.
It won't be on the recording.
But it's some things to consider. How's that? Lori?
Thank you,
Yes.
Shane.
I want to thank everybody for joining us. And Shane, as always, this is some great information. And it's nice when you're able to add in the stuff that you've been told previously. On that note, I will be sending a follow-up email with the copy of this recording. So if you have any things that you use or stuff you would, suggest to other people to look into, please let us know. And Shane can add that to his next presentation. But Shane, thank you again. And everybody have a great Friday the 13th. That is our last webinar for 2024. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And we hope to see you in January.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Thank you,
everyone.
Shane.
Thanks,
That
everyone.
was